this week's edition of Closed Session, we're talking about an issue that seems to affect every one of us around here, and that is the issue of rural crime. And right now I'm pleased to be joined by Corinna Williams, who is the chairperson for the Northern Sunrise Rural Crime Watch Association. First off, Corinna, thank you for coming in today, especially on short notice.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure.
All right, Corinna, now we know this past weekend you had a forum with Peace River Town Councillor Orrin Ford, some members of the RCMP, and various security technology providers. Overall, it seemed like more than 100 people were in there, and I know you just wanted to hand out the information. How excited were you with the turnout?
I was very excited. It was great to see all the residents around from the region. So to gain that information that we can share with them through the RCMP and the Rural Crime Watch is just a positive for everybody.
No doubt. And I guess the biggest thing that we find out is that whether it's from my time here in 05, 06 to now, a little more technology now, like in terms of like different types of lighting and things like that. But in my opinion, it really seems like it comes down to the root of looking out for each other. At least that seemed to be the message you were stressing, that looking out for your neighbors. If something doesn't seem right, it's just, I guess, being aware. I'll talk about the importance of awareness.
Oh, definitely, because when you live in a rural area or even in an urban area, you know your own areas. You know the vehicles you usually see. You know the people who you usually see walking down the road or moving around. So when you see something that is out of place, that is the positive time to actually call your neighbors and ask, do you have people visiting? Because they may well do have some family members visiting. If they all say no, then you can then call into the RCMP at their detachment number and just let them know that I see some suspicious activity, I've seen the suspicious vehicle, and just to make them aware that there's something happening in the area.
Now, I know one thing that Constable Roxanne Noss with the local Peace Regional Detachment was mentioning, and she said this herself as when she asks, how come you people didn't make a call or something like that? And then a lot of people will tell her, oh, well, you guys are so busy, we just didn't want to bother you. And while I guess she was appreciative of that sentiment, it's still important to call, isn't it? Even if you're not sure.
Oh, definitely, because a good example of this is if you have 3 or 4 houses in a rural area and all 4 of them have actually had an incident of a theft, even if it's small theft, but only one of them call in, then the RCMP do not know that this is a rash of theft that's happening. For them, it's just one incident that they're aware of.
Okay, and in saying that too, I also want to talk about we know MLA Dan Williams was there, and I guess that's interesting because we see that his government and the Office of the Justice Minister and Solicitor General have been taking quite an aggressive approach on rural crime. Is that encouraging to see from your perspective?
It is encouraging to see that we have the provincial government behind us. The unfortunate part of that, of course, is the downloading to recent municipalities where now the rural municipalities are having to pay for policing. And I think it will be okay as long as we see some feet on the ground, as we all like to say.
Okay, so I guess in saying that as well is that obviously, and I know I was hearing from other municipal leaders around here as well, that it's important to kind of keep the provincial government accountable, at least in terms of stalking, making sure that enough officers are there, because part of that announcement was adding additional RCMP officers. So I'm guessing if, at least from the position of Northern Sunrise County, if you see those extra officers, then you're okay with that.
Yes, I think we would be. As a council, we all spoke about that, okay, we understand now we're having to pay, but we just don't want to get caught into having to pay for officers that we never see.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fair. But some of the other initiatives, like, for example, coming up with ID scans to access liquor stores, for example, or things like giving extra officers to sheriffs or even peace officers, because as you know, sometimes when you live way out, an example for Hartman Valley, and somebody has to, make a 911 call, it could take somebody from one of the Peace Region detachments a little longer to get there. So having these expanded powers, you think that's a good thing for people like sheriffs and things like that?
Oh, definitely, because they could be in the area anyway, and even involving fish and wildlife, which is now, I believe, they're becoming part of that group, because Fish and Wildlife are generally in the rural areas anyway, so they're the ones that can see when things aren't looking correct. And I've even actually called Fish and Wildlife and let them know that there's a suspicious vehicle around, and they're in the area, so they drive around and they let me know if they've seen it or not, and they even actually call to the RCMP as well.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the technology, because we saw a lot of interesting gadgets and tools and various crime-deterring devices there at the thing. Now, quite a few, too many to mention, but overall, how would you say over the last 14, 15 years that, at least when it comes to, rural crime reporting or rural crime fighting, how much has the technology changed?
Oh, the technology is really increasing. We have things, as you said, there's so many, but we have the light catch, we have the trace pen, we have the app, the SiteSafe, and good old Facebook, of course.
Yeah.
The part with technology is great to use, but it has to be followed up with that report to the RCMP. There's so many that we see. There's great posts on Facebook or on the Peace Crime page about my vehicle stolen, or they've seen it somewhere else, but it's not followed up with that RCMP report. And that's the crucial step that must be followed up with.
I know you and I talked last week about this device, and you even showed it off as well. It was a big, bright light, and then if you press a button, it turns red, starts flashing, and it makes a lot of sound. Now, if somebody's trespassing onto your property, or somebody's on your property, you don't know, and they see something like that, obviously, I guess enough you're bringing attention to them. So little things like that, like, increasing lightness in your light in your yard, and even having like a loud alarm to bring attention, like how helpful are those things?
Oh, they're great, especially for families that are home alone. If their husband is out working and someone comes into the yard, they don't know who they are. And if they're feeling insecure, because generally we know ourselves when something isn't right, and
in the gut.
you feel it in your gut, so you can hit that light, so it goes from a white light to a red light with an alarm. And if that person is intruding, more likely they're going to run. And the same with animals. It could likely scare a bear if one's entering into your yard, hopefully.
Yeah, fair enough. And that does happen up here. Let's not kid ourselves.
It does.
I remember once when I went up to golf and I saw a little baby cub running on the side of the road on my way to Manning, and thought to myself, I'm like, oh, well, it's their land, so I'll just play nicely.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So I guess the final question I have for you, Corinna, is that there was a lot of good information exchanged and shared at the forum on Saturday, and I'm wondering, is this something that you and Ornd and other stakeholders want to make a regular event out of?
Yes, I think myself and Aaron, we spoke that this would be a great concept to run as a yearly event. And with the Rural Crime Watch Association, we hold meetings 3 or 4 times a year anyway. So most of the members come out and I give them new information. As you were there, you saw me give information about the fraud for seniors. I've noticed there's been an influx of phone calls right now of Canadian Border saying that your social insurance number has been compromised. So this is the new scam.
I received that call 2 weeks ago, actually, on my phone. So, now obviously, of course, me saying that I didn't recognize the number, so I didn't even answer it, but then I typed the number in Google after, and lo and behold, they said this is a scam number. It wasn't explained to me, but it was one, because I guess people were proactive on these things, and if you see a number, I guess like people share these things a lot as well, saying like, hey, this number just called me, they're asking for my social insurance number and want me to pay with it with an iTunes card, for example. And also, I guess as you had showed as well, and even Roxanne Noss was talking about, since we are seeing a spike in those CRA-related calls, is that the RCMP will not arrest you, or I should say the CRA will not arrest you, for example, and definitely, call me crazy, but I don't think they accept Netflix or iTunes as payments.
That's correct. But if you're a senior home alone and you get this aggressive phone call, because they can be quite aggressive, then these are the ones that they tend to target, is the vulnerable. So it's really important for daughters and sons and anyone around a senior person to have those conversations and let them know that don't answer the phone, they're a scam. And if they don't answer and it's something important, that person will call back again.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Corinna, really thank you for taking the time.
You're
Congratulations
very
on a great forum.
Thank you very much.
This is Corinna Williams, the chairperson of the Northern Sunrise Rural Crime Watch Association. I'm Kenny Trenton, and this has been another edition of Closed Session.